Before anyone gets in a tizzy about our list, of course those are Stephen King movies, and any Stephen King fan would know that this list of hidden gems is for casual fans of Stephen King's works, like me. That's right, feel free to shed the hate down on me because I think the man just rambles way too much in his books, and I'm not a huge fan. King's twisted storytelling may be tied to his childhood, where his father left when he was 2 years old, plummeting his family into financial ruins. His mother eventually became a caregiver for the mentally challenged after caring for his grandparents until they passed. As if his childhood wasn't hard enough, one day he returns home in a state of shock, unable to talk after witnessing his friend being struck by a train, something his family would not learn right away and something that King would block from his memory. His inspiration for writing came after he and his brother Dave dug through items stored away in their attic, where they discovered a collection of short stories by H.P. Lovecraft, The Lurker in the Shadows. King himself would start out by writing short stories after failing to find work as a teacher. Carrie, his fourth novel and first to be published, was rejected 30 times before being picked up, taking the horror world by storm and becoming the first of 50-plus films adapted from his works. And with Boogeyman releasing to theaters, we are here to discuss 5 lesser-known Stephen King films that you may not have,
or probably,
heard of.
Number 5. A forgotten black horror comedy, Thinner, directed by Tom Holland of Fright Night fame, is about Billy Halleck, a heavy-set, blood-sucking attorney who's distracted by his wife while driving home one night and runs over an elderly Romanian woman who dies. The case gets swept under the rug by his friend, Judge Carrie Rossington, and the local police chief, Duncan Hopley, who perjures himself in defense for Billy. Halleck believes that the worst is now behind him and that he can move on, but the victim's father has other plans and places a curse on him, whispering, "Thinner." Halleck begins to lose weight at an alarmingly rapid rate, sparking a series of tragic events that begin to occur around him, which causes him to take matters into his own hands by confronting the father and demanding the curse be lifted. But when he refuses, Halleck will go to extreme measures to save his own life. Thinner released in the mid-90s, and its effects certainly reflects the time. However, it is one of Stephen King's better stories that doesn't get much love and is worth a watch. Number 4.
Geralds Game is about a couple, Jesse and Gerald Burlingame, visiting an isolated lake house for a romantic getaway, where Gerald looks to spice things up. He handcuffs his wife to a bedpost, pops a Viagra, and begins to have his way with his wife. Only when Gerald pushes Jesse to her limits of being comfortable, and his intentions of rekindling their marriage turns into an argument that causes him to have a heart attack while Jesse is still handcuffed to the bed. Left to her own devices, Jessie is plagued by painful memories from her childhood and begins hearing and seeing things that she is unsure of being her imagination or something or someone far more sinister. Gerald's Game is a psychological thriller with brilliant performances by Carla Gugino as Jessie and Henry Thomas, who plays Tom, Jessie's father. Which, by the end of the film, you may come to see him in a different light going forward. It is the first of 2 Netflix Stephen King originals on our list that have gotten lost in the current wave of King's films hitting theaters.
Number 3. Based on Stephen King and Joe Hill's 2012 novella, In the Tall Grass is a slow burn film that once the horror begins to unfold, it accelerates in paranoia quickly. After pulling off to the side of the road next to a cornfield so that Becky could deal with her morning sickness, Becky and her brother Cal hear a child calling for help from inside a field. Concerned, they both rush into the cornfield to find him and quickly get separated. But as they call out to each other to find where they are at, their voices seem to shift in distance and location, only causing them to wander further apart. They soon discover that the child isn't the only other person in the cornfield. His parents are there too, and it's hard to tell what their intentions may actually be once they find him. If you struggle with claustrophobia, then there are a few unsettling scenes that you will feel the corn stalks closing in around you while watching. In the Tall Grass starts slow to the point that you may feel like turning it off, but stick with it because the growing tension and paranoia of being lost in the cornfield leads to distrust amongst those lost inside, causing them to slowly begin to turn on each other. The ending has a nice payoff once the antagonist reveals themselves and leaving you wanting to see this person take on more villainy roles. Number 2.
Not a film, but a pieced together 2-part television miniseries that you can buy as a complete film. Bag of Bones just narrowly misses our number 1 spot. It's a story of grief and the bonds that sometimes never break when someone loses their spouse. After his wife dies in his arms, author Mike Noonan begins to suffer with a series of night terrors about her and their summer home on Dark Score Lake in Maine. Taking the advice from his brother, Mike decides to head to the summer house in hopes that he could come to peace with his wife's death. Upon returning to his summer home, Noonan becomes entangled in a couple's custody battle while finding the will to write again, but his visions and nightmares lead him to believe that he isn't alone, finding that not only is his wife's spirit present with him, but also the spirit of a 1930s singer named Sarah Tidwell, who appears to him in his dreams, forcing him to relive her last day alive in 1939. Mike soon learns about Dark Score Crazy, an apparent form of madness that caused several men in the town to murder their daughters by drowning them, and begins to fear that the daughter of the couple he met may be the next and may be connected to his nightmares.
Number 1. Despite what other channels might say about Secret Window being predictable and dull, it isn't. Unfortunately, it is the first in a series of films that came out over a short period of time with a similar premise. So depending on which you saw first, the rest become easy to predict. With that said, Secret Window is based on the short story Secret Window, Secret Garden, and follows author Morton Rainey, who is in the middle of a bitter divorce where his wife's betrayal has set him on a darker path, forcing him to move from his home, struggle with writer's block, and causing him to turn to some old vices to cope with his life being turned upside down. Things take a turn for the worse when a dairy farmer from Mississippi shows up at his door with a copy of a story that he feels Rainey has stolen from him. He demands retribution and warns Rainey that if he does not make things right,
I will burn your life and every person in it like a cane field in a high wind.
But as Rainey tries to deal with his wife and the divorce, Shooter becomes increasingly violent as his patient runs thin with Rainey righting his wrongs. Many moviegoers at the time were misled to believe that this was a supernatural thriller, leaving them disappointed and causing some backlash during its release. So know this if you are going into it for the first time. It is not supernatural at all. It is far deeper than that.
Secret Window struck a chord with me when it first came out. It was one of the rare times that I actually got to go to the movie theaters back then. Now it's like 4 times a week sometimes. But if you've seen some of our old reviews on Last Night in Soho and Everything Everywhere All at Once, it is a movie that those 3 sit in a very high tier for me, possibly for you as well. Now, not only did this kind of bring my nightmares to life on screen as a writer, but I fell in love with Johnny Depp for the first time. I had liked him, but now he became my favorite actor with this film. And the performances opposite him are equally as strong. You have Maria Bello, you have John Turturro, and then you have Timothy Hutton, who's amazing. Hutton's performance as a prick was done so well that I hate this man to this very day. In fact, there was a movie that we saw after Secret Window that it was a thriller suspense, and once I seen him on the screen, I said, look, that mother did it. He did it. I know he did it because he is a prick. He is so despicable in this role that you will hate this When I see him, I just want to smack the smugness off of his face.
Okay, let's move on.
Funny thing about the one who will not be named, I also did not like Pierce Brosnan because of his role in Mrs. Doubtfire. In fact, I avoided watching him in many films after that movie that I saw, but Bag of Bones was the first film that I watched with him since Mrs. Doubtfire.
You have issues.
I just don't like that guy. Now, what films of Stephen King's that are lesser known that you would include on this list? He has a handful of really good ones. He has some mediocre ones, and then he has some that are really bad, including Children of the Corn's remake that just came out, which, wow.
Yeah. Children of the Corn could have been so much better because that girl was amazing.
She was amazing, but like we said,
yeah.
You can't recapture that magic.
No. Secret Window, definitely number one. I mean, as far as Stephen King movies go. And if you haven't seen it, you are missing out. So watch it. It's like we said in this video, it is not supernatural. I don't know why people thought it was.
Because they advertised it as that.
I guess,
so
yeah.
Anybody that watches this and goes and watches the full trailer piece together rather than how I'll lay it out here,
yeah,
you'll see that it looks like a supernatural movie. And I, at the time with my entire work crew from Blockbuster, we went to go see it, and I'm sitting in the movie, and about halfway point, maybe even before, it's like, oh, I know what's going on here.
Yeah, so it's more like a psychological thriller and delving into mental illness. It is not supernatural at all. Don't look for ghosts or anything invisible. It's just not there.
I tell you, Stephen King's childhood definitely shows up. It's like the van, right? When he got hit by the van and that started showing up in the TV show and several movies, the childhood always sneaks up, right? Because there's always the relationship problems between the husband and wife. Obviously, this probably reflects his mom and his dad from when he was growing up. And I just want to know what the heck is with the cornfields. Again, I'm not a Stephen King fan, so he may have talked about it. You may know about it. If he does, drop it in the comments. But the cornfields,
Well, he's from Derry, Maine. Are there a lot of cornfields in Derry, Maine? I mean, we've never been. So, and Derry, Maine strikes me as kind of a like farmish area in Maine. So that could be it. Maybe he grew up with a lot of cornfields. And I mean, let's face it, cornfields are pretty scary.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to go wandering into a cornfield.
Yeah.
Just saying.
In the tall grass, the reason why I bring it up is because it starts slow, but the payoff is so good. So definitely give it a chance. I know when it first came out, I wanted to see it. She made me turn it off, and now we came back and we watched it for this video. And
what are you talking about? I wanted to see it, and you told me no because it was Stephen King.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. The story is reversed this time.
Nope.
But the ending is good, and the antagonists, once they reveal themselves, wow, I want to see this person do more bad things.
Yeah, why have we not seen that yet?
So good at it.
Really very good. And I mean, yeah, you're going to hate the person. You're going to be like...
Not like Timothy Hutton. You'll hate that person for the rest of your life. Maybe it's just me, but he sucks.
It's just him. Timothy Hutton really pissed me off, right? Because he was that good, and he's amazing, and I think that he's completely underrated. He does not get the love that he deserves as an actor or for his performances. I don't hate him for the rest of my life, but if I had the chance to meet him, I would probably tell him how much I hated him in that movie.
I would tell him that I hate him until this day because of it.
Well, but he did his job then, right? You weren't supposed to like him. Not even a little bit. You weren't supposed to like him. He knew that that woman was married and that she was fragile because she was dealing with some loss, and he preyed upon that. That's how I feel. I don't feel... I mean, just going into the movie, you can see that Maria Bello is very fragile and she's dealt with a lot of things, and, you know, I think that Timothy Hutton preyed upon that.
Anyway, before I spout off again, don't forget there's a couple things that you need to do.
Yes, you need to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't just watch, subscribe.
Watch and win stuff.
Yes.
So every video that hits 25, 50, 75, and 100, there's prizes that we'll give it away. At 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000 subscribers, we have a lot of cool special things to give out to you. It's on our Facebook page. We talked about it a lot, so we're not going to hash over that again. Anyway, until the next Pop 5. See ya.